Salutations, fellow nerds. I'm Rick Y, the wise guy. And today is December 13th, 2024, and the realization that tariffs are going to actually be problematic for the American consumer is dawning on the MAGA voter. And now the pundits are coming out to try and move the goalpost, and I'm not here to let them. So if you enjoy news, history, and Americana, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you want real-time updates on my content, just diddle that little notification bell. I'd be much obliged. Throughout the campaign, the primary promise of Trump was to apply tariffs across the board and lower prices. He used to refer to an anecdote where an old lady would go to a refrigerator to take out 3 apples, and to her despair at the checkout counter, she could only afford 2 apples, and so she had to return one, and the cashier was very sad. As much as I am positive that's nothing but a fistful of donkey cud, it speaks to one of his primary campaign promises, which was to lower the price of groceries. And this wasn't some new premise that he thought of. In fact, if you can remember all the way back in 2022, John Fetterman, the Democratic Senate nominee at the time, now senator out of Pennsylvania, ran a campaign against the incoming head of Medicare and Medicaid, Oprah Dr. Mehmet Oz, who tried to convince us of this with this veggie tray crudité video in a fictional grocery store called Werdner's or some shit. Also, all those moms out on your Facebook complaining about the price of eggs and gas not being pandemic level lows while simultaneously finding it in their budget to take their daughters and friends to the Taylor Swift Eras tour. If you're unaware, each ticket would run anywhere between $200 and $2,000 per ticket. The primary repeated narrative that under Joe Biden was everything was so much more expensive, and under Trump it would get so much less expensive. The problem is when we start to see his supporters failing to hold him to the very expectation they voted against Biden for. Now that he's back on his way to the Resolute desk, Donald Trump is quickly walking his statements back and even saying that it's going to be too difficult. To my MAGA viewers, Trump supporters, I need you to understand that this is not something that he's just now learning and seeing new data that he personally can't compete with. He's adjusting his parameters because if he were to be interested in the opinions of economic professionals, he wouldn't be so hot and bothered over tariffs. After saying grocery prices will be affordable very soon, he's now saying things like, I'd like to bring them down. It's hard to bring things down when they're up. You know, it's very hard. And while not entirely ruling it out, I want to highlight how he works. You see, he makes unreasonable promises. He moves the goalpost when reality hits him, and then spikes the ball if he misses even his own set of goals, while blaming his political opponents for everything that went wrong. This is like clockwork. One of the ways this is obvious already, before he has already taken his oath of office, is that he's already sending out his own surrogates to help persuade their viewers that no, he did not say what he said. And in fact, he said something different. And then they'll throw in this red herring buzzword like border or child trafficking. Again, MAGA voters, this is a form of manipulation. And they're insulting your intelligence when they do this. You know for a fact that he said he's going to lower prices because you know for a fact that was one of the driving forces for you to vote for him. When presented with the promise that Trump made that if he failed to lower grocery prices now, it wouldn't make his presidency a failure. And then asked what it would mean, Republican strategist Lance Trover told Chris Jansing of MSNBC, I think this is being overblown. What he's doing is level setting with the American people. That's what he's doing. Which, if I'm going to chime in here for just a hot second, the term level setting is used in managing atmospheres to describe a way of holding on to and meeting previously established expectations. The previously established expectations that were made by Trump himself were to lower prices. Failing to deliver on that and then lying to your face about it isn't level setting. It's disrespectful. So I hold shame to Mr. Trover in his attempt at treating the viewers of that program to the amount of disrespect and condescending tone that's just in the statement itself. You honestly deserve better than that. So don't let them piss down your back and tell you it's raining. Trump isn't level setting. What he's doing is he's moving a goalpost and readying you for disappointment before he even gets onto the field. Trover then went on to say, quote, Joe Biden and the Democrats, and this is where I want to jump in. Again, if a grown man can speak only about irrelevant characters in a discussion, they're telling you that they don't want to address your concerns and that they'd rather talk about something else, either because they don't think you can handle their response or they simply just don't have the capacity. Where I'm from, treating a person so poorly as to ignore their question and go about your own business wouldn't be acceptable. Nobody asked this man about Joe Biden and the Democrats, and the reason is because they took an economy that was on life support and turned it into a locomotive that is, quote, the envy of the world. But I digress. This dude tried to say, it's important to remember how we got here. And you know what? It is important to remember how we got here, because we can't forget that even after the supply chain shortages were completely solved, corporations refused to lower their prices. They took in staggering profits and wealth, and even admitted as much in court documents when they were litigated for price gouging. But again, the topic wasn't how we got here or Joe Biden. The topic was, how would failing to keep a campaign promise to lower prices not be considered a failure on the part of Donald Trump? You see, one of the primary strategies here is to derail these conversations and talk about Democrats when they have nothing to do with the discussion and won't have any power for the next 2 years. There's literally no reason to try and shove them into the gap of shame because you refuse to hold accountable the ones who ran on these promises. If you're not familiar, this is a common strategy, but it's also a person who doesn't respect you to hold and maintain the adult conversation that you deserve, because they're assuming you'll be distracted by some other shiny object and not the conversation point that we were starting on. It's manipulative and it's deceitful. Stop letting people do it to you. Stay on track, because he tried to follow it up with, the Democrats put us at 20% inflation, which is outrageous as it is a stunning attempt at misleading the voting public. Our inflation rate is at 2.7%. We currently have what global economists would call a benchmark inflation rate. Other countries wish they could manage where we are. But then he went on to start talking about energy policies, which have nothing to do with inflation in this case. The U.S. isn't even importing its own oil. For the first time, we're exporting our oil. We're processing and refining our oil. We're energy independent. And to my own personal chagrin, oil and fracking increased to record numbers under Joe Biden. Since real conservatives understand the importance of conservation and land management, they'll probably have to agree with that, right? From then on, he repeated his assigned talking points like the little propaganda lemming that he is, and helped further poison the well. This kind of behavior by political spokespeople should be reprehensible to you as the voter. It should be intolerable. And as I said, the only people who do this aim to dissuade your line of thought and distract you. They're treating you like some house pet that can be occupied with a laser pointer, and it's frankly insulting. We as Americans cannot keep letting these people change the subject and run from accountability. The promises that Trump kept and the issues that he ran on his entire campaign need to be remembered, and he needs to be reminded of them by his followers. There's no reason your leaders should treat you in such a way that you're insulted into submission. And the best way to keep your guard up so as to refrain from letting these cheese weasels spin their way out of responsibility is to stay informed, stay engaged, and stay decent. Until next time, peace.